Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com and one of our fantastic True Health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 152. I am so excited for today's guest. Wynne Charles reached out to me. She is also a podcaster and has a very inspirational story for us. Wynne was born with a disability and from that has been on a health journey of her own to find out how she can live in the healthiest way possible without heavy medications, which is so phenomenal. You have so much to teach us today, Wynne. I'm really excited. Your podcast is Butterflies of Wisdom, which can be found on iTunes, and her website is butterfliesofwisdom.weebly.com. Wynne, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Ashley. And what this podcast has taught me is to stay away from the heavy opioids, and I'm talking about the acetaminophen I barely take a aspirin, let alone a heavy opioid, which they're giving kids with cerebral palsy. And for those of you who don't know what cerebral palsy is, you're thinking, what is this disability she's talking about? Now, cerebral palsy is a lack of oxygen at birth. So I acquired cerebral palsy at birth. I was 1 pound, 17 ounces. I was early, obviously, and I have all be 30 by the time this episode comes out. My birthday's June 22nd, so I am a functioning 30-year-old with cerebral palsy
and
staying off opioids the best that I can.
Congratulations. You know, I didn't really know a lot about cerebral palsy, and I think I was like most people, assuming that if someone is in a wheelchair and maybe they have spasms or tremors, that they might also not be intelligent, which is not the case at all. In fact, one of my favorite TV shows is Speechless, and one of the stars of the show has cerebral palsy, and I thought that was like really awesome of them to actually hire an actor with cerebral palsy instead of have an actor pretend to have cerebral palsy. I thought that was really cool. And also, one of my all-time favorite comedians of all time has cerebral palsy, and he is like spot on funny. So just because someone is in a wheelchair or has muscle spasms, muscle weakness, the typical symptoms of cerebral palsy, doesn't mean they're slow mentally. So you have a physical handicap, and you're very intelligent. There's not a handicap in your ability to think, but you have a physical restrictions. Now, I don't educate us because I know very little about cerebral palsy. I'm sure most of my listeners know very little as well. Typically, people with cerebral palsy, are they in pain? Is this because of muscle spasms or muscle weakness? Is chronic pain that requires heavy medications typically something that someone with CP needs?
Okay, let's back up there. Let me answer your questions first. Yes, Speechless is a show about cerebral palsy. Yes, the son has cerebral palsy, but those of you who have watched Speechless, and I believe you're talking about Josh Brewer, who won Last Comic Standing. Josh Brewer is a comedian with cerebral palsy. In Speechless's case, he has a severe form of cerebral palsy where he can't function at all. So in my case, my body goes through muscle spasms. I believe I would say 100 times a day. I control them to the best of my abilities, again, without opioids. They tried to give me opioids from 2006 to 2009. The common opioid, which a lot of people with cerebral palsy take, is Baclofen. And Baclofen, even though it's a spasm and muscle relaxer, it also relaxes the brain synapsi. So in 2009, my family goes, there's something wrong with this child. We were on the East Coast at the time, visiting my mom's family in the island of the Caribbean. And my mom's brother actually pointed that out to my mom. And so by the time we got back to Aspen, Colorado, my mom called the doctors at Children's Hospital in Denver, Colorado, which is the third ranked children's hospital in the country, ranked by U.S. News and World Report. And she goes, if you don't teach me how to pull my daughter off Baclofen, I will do it myself. Well, the doctors went gulp. The doctors go, I thought you guys liked Baclofen. My mom goes, no, my daughter's a walking zombie. No, I would rather have my daughter functioning with cerebral palsy and functioning with the tone and the muscle spasms and have a fully functioning brain. And so they try to give people what they call a hockey puck of Baclofen, which is a foreign object in your body, and they have to go surgically in there and put the pump in and replace the pump. So I think that when my mom said that to doctors were shocked, because here I am being a trailblazer for cerebral palsy, and if I was still on Baclofen to this day, actually, there was going to be no way I would be sitting here speaking to you, no way I would be doing half the work I am doing or was doing, because Baclofen just makes people a zombie.
And the people with CP are not the only people that are being put on Baclofen. It's more and more common that doctors find out that you've got back spasms and back pain, or you have muscle
Yeah.
spasms and muscle pain, and then all of a sudden it's, well, here's your script. They had 15 minutes with you. Here's your script, instead of
Yeah.
getting to the root cause. Like for CP, it's not as easy to obviously get to the root cause, but for someone who has mysterious pain, so many doctors are quick to, oh, you overworked yourself and you have back pain, you're just working too hard at work, here's your prescription, instead of, well, how about physical therapy, how about other solutions that don't lead to a band-aid, which is a drug and that causes so many more side effects. Now your mom was like really brave to stand up against the doctors. How else has your mom helped be an advocate for you, in terms of making sure that you're not being put on all these unnecessary medications?
Well, when my mom was alive, and we'll get to why I say that in a minute, she always fought these doctors. And I'm not kidding when I say she had a book, which I still have access to, of pages and pages of surgery dates on me, on pages and pages, not so much of medications, but different operations I had. And I tried Botox. Botox is another anti-acetaminophen that they use for people with cerebral palsy to unlock the hamstrings. Well, that didn't work because I didn't do the follow-up after that. I did a little bit of the follow-up, but not as much, so that didn't work. And then I tried to have my hamstrings. They went in and physically cut my hamstrings and lengthened my hamstrings twice, and my hamstrings are still shot to this day. And I'm 30 years old. I'm like, no more surgery for Wynn. And Wynn has had enough anesthesia in her body to know better.
Mm-hmm. And just imagine that the scar tissue, every time you get a surgery, scar tissue
Yeah,
forms, and that doesn't help
yeah,
either.
yeah. No,
Wow. Wow.
no,
Now,
that doesn't help either.
I definitely, well, there's so many questions I have, but let's talk about your mom. Before we hit record, we were talking about how one of my past episodes, episode 137 with Dr. Sela Whatcott, was very impactful to you. I'd love for you to share with the listeners about why that episode was impactful, because of your mom.
Yes, because of my mom. My mom unfortunately went in to the hospital with a brain aneurysm. Unfortunately, a bunch of hockey players, she was down there recovering from a fairly successful brain aneurysm surgery. They got in the nick of time. They plotted the brain aneurysm. She was making sense, like there was no tomorrow. I mean, she said to the doctors, "Who's taking care of when?" That was the first words out of the mouth. And after 4 hours of brain surgery, so that shows you right there how close a mother-daughter relationship we had and still have, even though she's passed. And so the reason why that episode was so impactful to me is because, unfortunately, a bunch of hockey players came into the hospital where she was in Denver, Colorado. Again, one of the top ranked hospitals in Denver, and it's actually Swedish Medical Center. And these 11 hockey players affected, I believe, 11 families in the ICU on, and we were one of the 11 families. And the doctors, because she had meningitis, which for those of you who know, meningitis is meninge of the brain. And so because she got meningitis and contracted meningitis, the doctors tried every antibiotic under the sun. They put her in medically induced coma twice, and the last time that they put her in medically induced coma, she got so scared that I had to walk in and basically say, "I love you, Mom, I love you, Mom, I love you, Mom," to shut the medical machines up long enough so that her brain could essentially heal. Well, at that time, she was dying. So the fact that meningitis could be cured holistically, I think that was amazing. But of course, traditional medicine doesn't like holistic medicine now, do they? And so I think someday, somehow, traditional medicine and holistic medicine will have to play nicely together. At least that's my hope.
And that's exactly why I'm doing this podcast. We got to get more of this information out there. I've already had 2 people write to me since I launched this podcast 15 months ago and say, "I never knew what a naturopath was, but because of your show, I'm changing my major. I'm in pre-med and I'm going to become a naturopath." And of course, tears were rolling down my eyes each time I read those emails, and to hear that we're uplifting the holistic profession, and we're exposing people to that there is natural and safe and effective science-based and verified alternatives to drugs and surgery that really do work, and that oftentimes have much safer outcomes and much less side effects. So, allopathic drug-based medicine isn't like bad all the time. It's just overused. And holistic medicine, which is very effective when you use it correctly, is underused. So we need to get this information out there. I'm so sorry that your mom passed away of meningitis. It's so painful. I lost my mom too to cancer, and that's why every time I do an episode where I interview someone who cures cancer naturally, it's a big passion of mine, because if I can save even one, if I can save one more mom, if I can save one more
Yeah.
person's mom, then that would be worth it to me. So it's been my
Yeah.
mission to get this out there.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you have been a trailblazer for CP. How else have you been a trailblazer for CP?
Well, one, staying away from icky opioids. I happen to be ex Kona Ironman triathlete. I retired from that after doing the Kona Ironman. I was lucky enough to do the swim and the bike of the Kona Ironman. Unfortunately, I say we because my teammate and I were trying to be like Rick and Dick Hoyt. Rick and Dick Hoyt started running the Boston Marathon when Rick was 10 and Dick was, I believe, in his 40s, and now Rick is in his, I'm about to say 50s, and Dick is in his 70s. If you want to put Rick and Dick Hoyt, Google Rick and Dick Hoyt in the show notes, you'll see what I'm talking about. Anyway, I am the first woman to compete in the Kona Ironman with cerebral palsy. So yes, and unfortunately, because we got taken down by the winds and the elevation of Hawaii, we didn't finish the Kona Ironman, and unfortunately, I was in a predicament where I could not pedal a bike. I could not pedal a bike. My teammate was literally pulling me slash her weight. So I believe if I could pedal the bike at Kona, I believe I would be a Kona Ironman finisher.
That is so cool. I love that. I love don't let anything stop you, and I absolutely love that. I think it's really amazing when people who are handy capable kind of like get down on themselves in life, and then they look at someone who's like born with a disability and doing more with their life than they are. It's like, come
Yeah.
on, there's no, we don't have any excuse for stepping outside of our comfort zone. If someone who is in a wheelchair or with a walker, or has a physical disability going and doing Ironmans, like it doesn't matter that you didn't cross the finish line. The fact that you went out there, you put yourself out there, and you did as much as you and your teammate could do. I mean, that is more than most of us are doing with our life. And we got to ask ourselves, like, why are we stopping ourselves? Because we're the ones holding ourselves back. So we can take your inspiration and just go with it. I mean, how did that feel, being out there in the race with everyone else? Like was it exhilarating? What was it like?
That felt so good to be out there in the race with everyone. Now, I have a friend who did it on a hand bike, and she managed to win the Kona Ironman. God knows how she did that, and she's out of New York, and she managed to compete the year I did it on a hand bike, and just seeing her pedal back was amazing.
This is very cool. Now, you explain to us, because again, so many of us don't know enough about CP. So my understanding is everyone's a bit different. Like not everyone with CP needs a wheelchair, or do they all need a wheelchair? Or sometimes you don't need a wheelchair. Just give us a picture of what it looks like for you when you want to travel or move around.
The typical picture of CP is I have moderate to severe CP. I have a friend who is nonverbal and can't talk, but he was born able-bodied. So he choked on a piece of popcorn, and that's how he got CP.
Oh, he choked on a piece of popcorn?
At age 2 and
Oh.
aspirated on the piece of popcorn. That's why I said at the top of the show, CP is caused by lack of oxygen. Well, and choked, if you are young enough and you choked on a piece of popcorn because his mother left it in the middle of the table, and the curious 2-year old got to be the popcorn, and by the time his mom said no loud enough that the no scared him, he jumped half a foot and he aspirated on a piece of popcorn.
Oh my gosh. So CP is something you can not only have from being at birth, like you said,
Yes,
being under a preemie and having oxygen cut off at birth, but also someone who's
yeah,
a toddler, if they have had lack of oxygen as a toddler, they could develop CP.
yes.
Got it.
CP could be caused by a childhood stroke, by a traumatic birth, or traumatic, like choking on a piece of popcorn at age 2.
Okay. Wow. So for you, are you often in a wheelchair or a walker? Now you had shared with me a picture of you where a robot was helping you walk. Share with us
Yes.
how does
Okay.
how does it work?
Okay. Let me say this. I am well. Speaking of alternative PT programs, I am one of the first women ever with cerebral palsy to walk in an exoskeleton. And that is what I shared with you yesterday. And so that is dead cool. And so basically, what that has helped me do is improve my gait. But when I travel, and yes, I do travel with aid, and yes, I do travel to California, Seattle, all those good places. And I use a wheelchair, but primarily I use a walker.
Okay, great. So there's times when you can use a walker, and now do you this tell us a bit about this exoskeleton. Is this something you can use on a regular basis? Or
I have the luxury. I have the luxury of using it twice a week, and because it's so big and cumbersome, I and expensive too at that. I don't have the luxury of using this thing at my house. So what I do is go to the gym and get in my friend's exoskeleton, who you should interview. Her name is Amanda Boxtel. She got paralyzed in a skiing accident in 1992 on the slopes of Snowmass, Colorado. And she was the first woman to crowdfund exoskeleton for herself. She didn't even have the foundation at the time. And she would walk daily in a parking lot with this exoskeleton. And then she decides, well, I don't have time to do this anymore, walking it myself, but I do have time to give up hours to it, but not every single day, not 3 hours a day. So why don't I create a foundation called the Bridging Bionics Foundation and gift my exoskeleton to those who are paralyzed and with cerebral palsy in the community. And now, how I use the exoskeleton is I use it as a big gait trainer. But first, I have to get on something that they call the Galileo tilt table and imagine a Bible gym or a power plate at the gym. So imagine a power plate or a Bible gym at the gym. And I'm sure your listeners have been on a power plate or a Bible gym at their local gym. Well, this is just a handicap version of it. And what the Galileo tilt table does is fatigues the muscles and fatigues my muscle spasms just a little bit so that the exo and I could play happy together, because without the Galileo tilt table, there was no way I could get in the exo. And let me tell you, it took me a good solid 3 months to first attempt the exoskeleton.
Wow, 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months of just solid Galileo tilt table.
So once you're in the skeleton, what is it? What is it like? What is it? Is it? I mean, do you feel like it's freeing to be able to walk? Does it feel like you're? It's really helping your body to stretch, and like you said, it's a gait. Like it's
It
helping you with your gait. Like, what does it feel like?
it's more, well, it's not light. Let's just say that. I'm holding on to a walker slash the patient is carrying a huge battery pack. So it's not light, but it's more freeing than you would think it would be. It helps with circulation. It helps with bladder. It helps with bowel movement. And so it all helps with the internal organs, but I'm just using it to improve my gait.
Very cool. It's like a timeshare that you get to share it with other people.
Yes,
I think
yes.
that's really, really cool. And have you been able to come together and meet the other users of this
Oh, yeah.
exoskeleton?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I saw the director of the program walking in it yesterday. And so what the director wanted to do is integrate her disabled program into a able-bodied gym. So I'm working out like you and I, like you would, except I'm using exoskeleton, and yes, we treat it as if it were a piece of workout equipment.
Very cool. I just love technology. And, this is where I think there's this beautiful marriage that we can incorporate ancient healing arts with modern science. It's modern science isn't the enemy, it's how we use it and really making sure that we're using it holistically. Now, you've shared that you avoid these heavy medications, but my understanding is you have these muscle spasms and these is it seizures or just muscle spasms?
It's muscle spasms.
Okay,
I
so
am
those are
super
painful,
lucky.
right?
No, they're not. They're not as painful. Yes, when your knee does a wonky sideways dance, that's painful. But I'm so used to the muscle spasms that I just carry on throughout my day. And 9 times out of 10, I don't even feel them. Like I'm sitting here and my hand, as we do this interview, is uncontrollably moving. And I can't control that. That is part of my CP. So I don't even feel them. The only time I really feel them is when my knee does a wonky sideways dance, which due to my tone, I have trouble keeping my kneecaps in traction.
Mm. Yeah, so when the knees go out, that can be painful. I've had that when I was a figure
Yeah,
skater. When
yeah,
I was a kid, I was a
yeah.
figure skater, and my quad, one part of the quad became stronger than the other, pulled the kneecap away from my knee, and you couldn't really
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
like a regular person looking at my knee wouldn't know, but I was in excruciating pain, and I went to a physical therapist and chiropractor, and she's like, "Oh yeah, you did this," and it was just pulled away by a few millimeters, but yet it was enough to cause excruciating pain. So if that was painful for me, I can't imagine what you're going through. What do you do
The
naturally to be able to? So you're not on these medications. Is it? Do you just use mindset, or are you using natural medicine, or do you go see an acupuncturist? Like what is your
well,
routine? How do you do it?
mm, I I'm going to admit the story publicly. That this is why I wear a knee brace in the XL, and because of the weight of the XL and how the XL got its funding, the exoskeleton got its funding was through UC Berkeley and Harvard, and then the U.S. government took it over to help Afghanistan veterans, people in Afghanistan carry their own body weight. That's how the XO came to be. But when I was walking in the XO, my kneecap decided to do a sideways dance
Oh,
a couple months ago. And I just stood there as the PT got freaked out, and she goes, "What do we do? What do we do? What do we do?" I said, as calmly as I could, I said, "Release the exo and sit me down." And my kneecap is strong enough to pop itself back in.
that must have been painful. So do you is it
Yeah.
mindset? Do you're using just the just like willpower and mindset and staying calm around it to maintain yourself, or
I both. I use mindset. I also use healing energy of Reiki. I have given myself Reiki. I know how to do Reiki on myself. It's list came to it, but I've been sitting there and know how to shift the kneecap back in and walk on it. And after it pops out, I can walk on it. I can function like a normal woman.
And the power of Reiki is amazing. Yes, I've
Yes,
absolutely agreed
yes,
with you. You know, I was so
yes.
skeptical about Reiki. I was 15 years old, and I had sprained my ankle so bad it swelled up like a softball. And I went to the doctor in the emergency room, and they said, "Well, a break would have been better because you tore so many of your ligaments that I think a break would have been cleaner. You're not going to be able to walk for 2 weeks. You have to keep this up." And so I called my boss at the time because I had a summer job, and said, "Well, I'm not going to be in for a few days. I've got to have my foot up with ice, but and then I'm going to be on crutches." And my coworker was a Reiki master, and she's like, "Can I come over and work on you?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, whatever, anything, I'll take anything." And I was sitting. I distinctly remember sitting there on the couch with my ankle elevated by some pillows, and she had her hands gently on my ankle, and she said, like if there was imagery, it's like your body is a glass, and it's hollow in the inside, and this break, or this injury is like a crack in the glass, and this energy is escaping from it, so we're going to patch it up. And so she gave me kind of this imagery to work with that while she was doing the Reiki. And when she was done, the swelling had gone down. I didn't feel any pain, and I stood up on my ankle. I put all my weight on it. I walked around, and then I started dancing. And I put on music, and I was dancing. The injury was completely gone. And after that, I was a full believer in Reiki. Now I haven't seen Reiki do that again. Like it's I don't recommend dancing on an injured joint, but I think
No,
the universe had to show me how powerful, our ability to heal with energetic medicine can be. And
on
and it does, it really
body to
can.
heal naturally.
Mhm,
Our body
absolutely.
to heal naturally.
Mhm.
And trust me, I've been called a bad patient before. I popped my knee. I I popped my kneecap out on a scale. I popped it back in. Um they fogged me down. I also snowboard in the winter, so that's a whole nother story in itself, which we'll get to in a minute. And they toboggan me down, and I come in, calm as a cucumber. My dad meets me at the clinic, and my skin structure goes, falls me down, and they try to give me a walking knee brace. And I said, no, thank you. I'll just take my knee, and you can give me a bandage, but I'll just take my knee and carry on. And they go, bad patient. We tried to give you a walking knee brace, and you didn't want to take it. I'm like, you don't understand CP. I said this to the doctor. I'm like, you don't understand CP. You don't understand that I have tone that pulls my kneecap every which way and center. And you don't understand what I'm fighting with at 29 years old at the time. And they like gulp, and they're like seeing a ski instructor from Aspen, Sugito, who's involved with Challenge Aspen, and they come in the door and they almost say to the ski instructor, what did you do to this? What did you do to this child? Because it's like they don't understand CP. I think a lot of doctors, and I have doctors in my own family, and but so many doctors and so many PTs are reading about CP in a textbook that it's not even funny. When they see patients with cerebral palsy, they just automatically assume they're a textbook case.
Right. Right. And isn't that the case for most doctor visits? It's kind of infuriating.
Yeah.
I am so glad that you made this point, because we need to be our own advocate. You know your body the best. You are the expert on
Yes.
your body, and you need to have
Yes.
a voice in the doctor's office. If a doctor tries to tell you something and you just know in your gut that is not the right way, you want them to look at it in a different direction, or you know that you don't want that medication, there's always you need to get a second opinion. You need to get, look into there's not always just one way of doing things. Most of the time there's multiple different choices, and the doctors don't have the time to explain to you the different choices, and so they just want to tell you the one that is either the most profitable or just the easiest, or the one that they have experience with. But if there are other options that they don't have experience with, but there's other options that work, that are more effective, you have to be the advocate. You've got to go and find the doctor that's going to work with you and be on your team. I know some people are afraid to stand up to their doctor, and if you are intimidated by your doctor, you need to get a new one. It's just unless, of course, it's an emergency situation, then all these rules, go out the window, because if they're going to save your life, there's times you just have to be like, okay, save my
Yeah.
life. But when it comes to
I
chronic conditions, you have to be your own advocate and stand up for yourself and find a
Yeah.
doctor that is going to work with you and support you and listen to you and not intimidate you.
I agree, but I'm not necessarily intimidated by my doctor. I I am and still on birth control. The miracles of birth control. Now that's the only shot I take. I take a vitamin D, every single day. But other than that, I'm functioning without these medications. And as I said, if I was still on baclofen, there would be no way I would be talking to you, and there would be no way I would be doing my podcast.
Amazing. Now let's talk about your podcast. When did you start your podcast, and what is your mission? What's the mission behind doing Butterflies of Wisdom?
Well, okay. I started my podcast 4 years ago today. Today is June 15th. And I started my podcast 4 years ago today. It was actually a YouTube show right after I wrote my autobiography, I Come a Win. That came out in October. I started Wins Women of Wisdom at the time that summer. So it must have been June. The book came out in October, and it must have been June. I started the YouTube show. I thought, oh, great! I'm going to be a YouTube star. I'm going to be have all these raging fans on YouTube. I remember a fan saying, "When I would love to listen to the YouTube show, but I need to multitask. I don't have time to sit down in front of a computer." And I said, "Okay, there goes my YouTube fan. There goes my YouTube stardom. I am completely out the door. I'm now listening to a fan base here." And so that's why I bit the bullet. It took me a long time to bite the bullet too, and go over to the best podcasting hosts I have ever met in my life, which I know you use, Lipson, Lybsyn, and they're out of Pittsburgh. You know, they have never gone down on me, never, ever, 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 ever done wonky stuff with me. So that's what you guys have. You guys have Skinner is, do you want to do the time commitment? Ashley will tell you it's a time commitment. Yes.
Yes, it
And
is.
Wynn will tell you it's a time commitment. When Ashley's laughing at me because she goes gulp. And so you guys really have to do it as a second job. Or in the case of Ashley's situation, I believe, didn't you quit your full-time job?
It
This is now your full-time job.
it's been yeah, it's I like juggle three full-time things. So yeah, it's
Really?
being a podcaster is
Oh,
definitely a full-time job. And then of course being a mom, and my husband and I run a
yes,
digital marketing agency. So but yeah, Libsyn is great. I highly recommend Libsyn for those who want
yes,
to host any kind of
yes.
podcast. Absolutely recommend that. So what is your mission with Butterflies of Wisdom? What do you look to accomplish? What do you look to give the listener?
Share the stories of solo entrepreneurships and share the stories of disabilities and disability advocacy and get all these disabled people motivated and, quite frankly, get them up and moving and living their dreams. I'm not doing it for me. I'm doing it for those who literally can't speak.
Mm, I love it. You've interviewed some really big people on your show, like John Lee Dumas, who is one of
Yes,
the people that I learned to become a podcaster because of following him. And so it's really cool to see the big people you've interviewed on your show, which is really neat. We'll definitely recommend listeners check out Butterflies of Wisdom, which is
Butterflies of
available.
Wisdom, which is available everywhere. Yes, it's on the Android side too. It's not only on the Apple side. And so, and I have a little bit of a special announcement, which I'm not truly announcing until Monday of next week, but I'm getting very close to getting an app for my podcast. So you guys don't have to go in the podcasting catcher app, and you guys can just click on my app and open it up, and it would be an app like Time Magazine. And for those of you who know what apps are, that's great. But for those of you who know what podcasts are, that's great. Obviously, since you're listening to the True House podcast, you know what a podcast is. But a lot of people actually don't know what a podcast is. They know what an app is on iPhone or Android. They don't know what this thing podcasting is. I have a friend who's actually coming on my podcast, and she goes, "I want to listen to your podcast, but I need an app for it." So I'm like, okay, here we go. And that's how people listen to podcasts now. They listen to it through an individual app. So, and Lipson does a great job. Lipson's trying to convince all of us to get apps now that I'll say that on your podcast, they would probably try and convince you to get an app because, as I said, a lot of people know what apps are. They just don't know what the thing podcasting is.
It's so true. It's really funny. Of course, listeners are like, duh, we know what a podcast is. But I can't tell you how many times I bump into people and I say, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, well, one thing I do is I'm a podcaster. Or my husband, if he meets someone who has like just the other day, we went swimming at this local amazing swimming pool that is a saline, so a saltwater swimming pool, so we don't have to be like
Yeah.
bathing in heavy chlorine, and my son loves it. And so as we're paying for our access there, for the free swim, uh, I look down and I see that there's a box of donuts from Canada. Now we're 3 hours south of Canada. So I say, hey, Tim Hortons, there's Timbits in there, and that's really, really popular
Yes.
in Canada. I say,
Yes.
I've been gluten free for 6 years, but it's really funny to see some, like, something from back home, that these
Yeah.
the lifeguards and the staff were eating. And she's like, oh, my whole family's celiac and I've been thinking about going gluten free. And so of course, we strike up a conversation. My husband grabs I made business cards for Learn True Health because every time we're out, we seem to bump into someone that we start talking to. It's so common. Just start talking to someone, and all of a sudden they're bringing up health issues. Either that or it's just me, and I kind of bring that out in people. But he hands her the card, and I said, "Oh yeah, you should listen to episode da 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 da." We start talking about it, and she's like really excited because she's thinking about doing an elimination diet. And it's just funny how we keep bumping into people, and most people that I talk to out there have no clue what a podcast is. It's really funny, of all ages. They're kind of like give me a look, and I'm like, well, it's like having a radio show, but not it's on the internet. And I had to explain what a podcast is. So it's good that to also, like, I put the show on YouTube as well. And you're right, a lot of podcasters are going are transitioning to having their own apps. So we're looking forward to seeing that, which is, like you said, is going to be released soon. That's fantastic. Now you have a book that's coming out. Tell us about your book.
I do.
Yeah, tell us about it.
And this is everyone's homework assignment. This is all your listeners' homework assignment. And all my listeners' homework assignment, because I'll be putting this audio on my feed too, so you guys can to hear it. Go get I Comma Win. It's on Amazon before August 12th. It's on Audible. It's on Amazon. It's in paperback, trade paperback. And so go get I Comma Win, my original book, before August 12th, so you can get a glimpse of what the mosaic of CP is going to be about.
Good, absolutely, and the link to that's going to be in the show notes of today's podcast. Now, you said
Yeah.
you're so I Comma Win, which is already published, but you said you're coming out with a new book that's coming out in August? Did you say?
August.
Okay,
August.
great. And what's
Mosaic-
that? What's that book about?
The mosaic of CP, and that book is about where I am now. It's less about cerebral palsy and how I've made cerebral palsy my gift.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
if
so
you-
important. That's so important. I was just the other day interviewing someone about cancer, and he said that one of the biggest things is this guy. Haven't released this episode yet, but I will soon. He traveled around the world and interviewed personally sat with and interviewed over 100 cancer doctors that have higher statistics for healing cancer than traditional oncologists. And he said that one of the biggest commonalities is that it is the ability to have, in terms of mindset, to turn it into a gift, to almost like love your cancer, love your disease, not in the sense that you want more of it, but in the sense that once you make it as part of the mindset, once you make it be this gift, start to look for start to look for the positives and what it's giving you in your life, because then you stop pushing, you stop resisting, you stop hating all this negative energy you've been expelling about it. And now all of a sudden you are left loving your life and you have all this free energy up to pursue the things you want to do. So I love that you said that it's about seeing CP as your gift, and then we should really take that to heart, because I think that everyone in the world has something in their life that they are pushing up against, that they're unhappy with. It might be something physically, or something in their past, or something emotionally, or maybe a relationship. But if you can take that negative thing you've been pushing against and rejecting, and instead make that experience, that part of your life, be a gift in your life, then you are left empowered to pursue, like I said, living how you want to live, instead of spending all your time hating the way it is, right?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I just feel that we should use disabilities as a gift, not as a curse, so to speak.
Awesome. Now, it has been wonderful having you on the show. I love the fact that, those who maybe are considering being on pain medications, or are on pain medications, you know, you're giving us hope that people can live, especially when there's a condition that you have these spasms, and you're just like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to give in to this medication, because it's harmful to my body, and it makes me a walking zombie. So many people out there are on these medications. So many people are addicted to them because the body becomes addicted to them. And you're showing people the light at the end of the tunnel. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your story. Really looking forward to hearing about the success of your book, and that you are showing people that no matter what life gives you, you can go out and do marathons, do Ironmans. You can go out there and inspire others, no matter where you are in life. It doesn't take being rich. It doesn't take being born with a perfect body. It doesn't take any of that. It just takes the willpower and the mental and emotional strength to go out and do it. And I love that you surround yourself with a wonderful team. This isn't about doing it alone. And I think we should all also learn from that. If we want to accomplish something, we need to surround ourselves with those who also share our vision. So awesome. Definitely want to hear in August that you've had a successful launch of your book. We can be promoting it with Learn True Health. And I'd love for you to wrap up today's interview. Share something with our listeners, a challenge that you can give our listeners that they can do starting now and for the next 7 days and beyond that, to improve an area of their life. So what would you like to challenge our listeners with?
I Oh God, that's a hard one. I would like to challenge your listeners to go see if they can. I don't care how many listened how many minutes they listen to it, but just go listen to an inspirational podcast like She Podcast, run by Elsie Escobar and Jessica Cufferman, or like my own, or True Health, quite frankly. Just go sit and listen to a podcast and see if you can gain something from it. I know you say at the end of your podcast, actually, in your outro, did this change your life? Let's make this ripple into a tidal wave. And that's how I want to end this podcast. Let's make this ripple into a tidal wave to get CP patients off these opioids.
Wonderful. So all the listeners, if you know someone with CP, or you know someone who knows someone, or you know someone who's related to someone, just let's tap into this social network. Please share this episode with your friend, or your friend of a friend, or your contact who has CP, because we might be helping them. Can you imagine if we helped even a handful of people, and we reached even a handful of people who are struggling, or maybe on these medications, who, this would really inspire them or help them in any way. And I just think that we are stronger as a community, coming together, even if it's digitally, virtually on the internet, but coming together as a community to support each other is what we need to do. And isolation it hurts us emotionally, mentally, physically, and spiritually. We're not meant to be isolated. So, and I know that with disabilities, it's easier to be isolated. And so please reach out to those who you know with CP, share this interview, let them know about Butterflies of Wisdom, and let's get this going, like you said. Let's turn this ripple into a tidal wave. Absolutely. Now, the links to everything that Wynn does is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast on learntruehealth.com. And I'd love for you to check out her book and her upcoming book. Thank you, Wynn, so much for being on the show. This has been a true pleasure.
You are so welcome. It's been a true pleasure to be interviewed by you. And please, 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 this is Wynn's begathon. Please, for all these independent podcasters that you do listen to, please share this episode out. It helps all of us, mine included. And please just be conscious of your health.
Enjoy what you heard today on your episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Did something move you, inspire you? Did you get great information that's going to change your life? Awesome. That's exactly what I'm here to do, is to help you gain your health back. Please turn around and share this. If this is something that's helped you in any way, share this with those you love. Love the Learn True Health podcast and want to support us? Awesome. You can go to takeyoursupplements.com and you can support us that way. You'll get access to amazing supplements that are just really great quality for a great price. And there'll be someone on the other end of the line to help you pick out your supplements that are right for you. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Or join our membership, learntruehealth.com/join. That's another great way to support our podcast, support our movement, and you'll be supporting yourself. Gain more information, wonderful videos, wonderful trainings, and you'll also be able to share those with those you love as well. So go to learntruehealth.com/join. Want something fun for free? Go to learntruehealth.com, and right there on the front page, you'll see where you can get our free cookbook. I spent a lot of time making it, and it was so much fun. It's really delicious, healthy recipes. And you can also get our 7-day doctor course. Right there, it's 7 days of naturopathic videos sent right to your inbox, and you can learn from top naturopaths on how to gain health naturally. So that's takeyoursupplements.com for wonderful supplements. learntruehealth.com/join to join our awesome membership, which is only open for a limited time. You can get our free healthy cookbook, and you can also get for free 7 days of wonderful naturopathic videos sent to you. Just go to learntruehealth.com and you'll see it right there on the front page. Thank you so much for being a listener, and thank you for sharing and helping others. Let's spread this information and turn this ripple into a tidal wave.